colleagues. So the topic of my systematic literature review is economic implications of unemployment among arts and humanities graduates, a systematic literature review. So in this slide, numbers and percentages are showing a kind of alarming story. In 2019, as per the labor force survey, the unemployment rate was around 5%, which is the overall unemployment percentage. But the youth unemployment rate is 23%, from which more than 50,000 of graduates are unemployed, from which the majority are arts and humanities graduates. So here, as a percentage wise, 59% share of arts graduates among Sri Lanka's unemployed graduates. So I would like to make a conceptual point here. Educated populations drive productivity, innovation, and technological adoption as per human capital theory. But those returns to higher education depend on the alignment between graduate skills and labor market demand. In developing economies, pricing, educational attainment coexist with persistent graduate unemployment. This disconnection between education output and labor market absorption signals a structural macroeconomic problem, which is not an individual issue. Therefore, graduate unemployment among arts and humanities graduates is not an individual failure. It is a macroeconomic issue, but which is understudied. So when it comes to the research problem, there are three gaps justify why systematic review focused especially on arts and humanities graduates and on macroeconomic implications. So in order to understand, I have segregated into three sections. First one is the empirical gap. So there are limited macroeconomic evidence linking arts and humanities graduates unemployment to GDP, fiscal and productivity outcomes. Disciplinary-wise, the disciplinary gap, STEM and management graduates dominate for employability. But arts and humanities graduates are forming the majority of unemployed graduate pool. So contextual gap is the variation across labor markets, educational policies, and private sector capacity is rarely examined comparatively across developing economies with similar structures. When it comes to research question, the research question is what are the effects of arts and humanities graduate unemployment on macroeconomic factors in developing economies. In order to operationalize the research question, I have established four objectives. First one is to synthesize the theoretical and empirical literature on unemployment among arts and humanities graduates. Second one is to examine the extent and determination of unemployment and skill job mismatch in developing economies. Third one is to analyze the economic implications of graduate unemployment among labor market efficiency and productivity. Finally, to identify the research gaps and propose directions for future research and policy on graduate employability. So I have presented the overview of the methodology. I have used the Prisma 2020 framework here. So I have mentioned the databases I use and the research strategy. So here the particularly the combination of keywords I use to review the papers and inclusion criteria. I should specifically tell here the peer-reviewed articles only selected in English language. The period is, publication period is from 2020 to 2025. This is very specific because this is after the COVID pandemic period and further economic downturns can be examined. So this is specifically examine economic implications and both quantitative and qualitative studies considered. So exclusion criteria, I have excluded several papers based on the criteria. Disciplinary oriented studies, basically STEM, medical, IT, management. So these disciplinary oriented studies excluded, and sector specific studies excluded, and behavioral psychological focus studies excluded, and curriculum development studies excluded, reviews, dissertation, working papers, books are excluded. So this is the overview of the methodology. So I have mentioned a kind of snapshot of the Prisma flow diagram. So here the sections are identification, screening, and inclusion criteria. So you can see here I have reviewed more than 1,000 articles, and in the first stage I removed duplicates and ineligibility by automation. So I have removed certain articles, and then as a second screen I have excluded 702 articles and selected only full text articles, which is 113. From there, based on JBI quality below threshold, off topic, relevance, based on these criteria, I excluded and retained only 39 the best articles for the review. So this is the overview of the Prisma diagram that I followed for 39 articles. So before moving to the findings, I would like to present the study characteristics here. So when it comes to geographic distribution, here the majority is the developing country studies, which is 74%. Then 23% represent developed country studies, and multi-country studies are 3%. So methodology wise, the majority are quantitative studies, which is 59%. Then second, 28% are qualitative studies, and 13% are mixed methods use studies. And publication year wise, you can see here from 2020-22, 2020-25. In 2020-24, you can see the number of articles are 14 out of 39. So which is very significant. Academic interest are very much high in 2025. This 24, this period is after COVID pandemic period. So it proves the relevance and validity of the selected study. When it comes to frequency of thematic variables, so you can see here the skill job mismatch dominate the evidence. So which is the most dominant thematic variable. So there are methodical points that I want to highlight here. So skill job mismatch examine 19 articles out of 39. So this is the most dominant cause of graduate unemployment. Then demographic and educational factors, which represent 14 studies in each. So it says gender, age, location, and education background shape unemployment duration and economic loss. Then most studies examine multiple variables simultaneously, so reflecting the interconnected transmission channels through which graduate unemployment affects macroeconomic outcome. As an example, skill mismatch lead to wage depression. Wage depression lead to reduced aggregate demand. Reduced aggregate demand lead to reduced productivity. So moving to the macroeconomic consequences, this is the most important slide in this presentation. So these are the dimension, most important dimension identified in this study. So I have mentioned the particular percentages of particular dimensions. So first one is the reduced GDP growth and labor productivity, lower government revenue and increased public expenditure, weakened labor market efficiency, rising income inequality and diminished human capital returns, and finally declining in aggregate demand and consumption. So these dimensions are interconnected, interrelated. So that is why I have mentioned the kind of presented the kind of figure here. So if we take from reduced productivity, it will lead to lower GDP. Lower GDP will lead to reduced tax revenue. Reduced tax revenue will lead to increased fiscal pressure. It will end up with constrained educational spending. So skill job mismatch is the central transmission channel here. So out of 39 studies, 19 articles identify skill job mismatch as the most frequent driver of graduate unemployment. In Sri Lanka, 59% unemployed graduates are from arts and humanities discipline. So this unemployed, the skill job mismatch are two forms of mismatches. First one is vertical mismatch, which is about the O education. Another one is the horizontal mismatch. This is something the working in irrelevant fields. So here the results of vertical mismatches are wage penalties, low motivation, wasted educational investment. So results of horizontal mismatches are employer retraining cost, reduce productivity. So I would like to make a rationale here. Macroeconomic pass through two kind of mismatches. Mismatch will lead to wage depression. Wage depression will lead to reduced consumption. Reduced consumption will lead to weakened aggregate demand. On the other hand, mismatch can be lead to productivity loss. It will lead to lower GDP per capita. So it can be end up with reduced fiscal returns. Not only skill job mismatch, there are additional three transmissions identified in this study. So first one is the demographic disparities. The other one is the structural economic issues. And the finally, third issue is the social cost. So when it comes to demographic disparities, female graduates face higher unemployment. Second one is the younger cohorts experience declining returns to education. Rural graduates face mobility constraints and limited access. So structural economic issues are over reliance on public sector jobs. Automation and AI and globalization displace traditional art roles. And also COVID-19 and economic downturns deepens mismatch in non-technical sectors. When it comes to social cost, long-term earning loss, family debt burdens, and bankruptcy. So secondly, mental health deterioration impose healthcare and productivity cost, and also erosion of trust in education as a mobility pathway. So this is the kind of evidence that doesn't yet establish, uh, which I identified as gaps in literature. So first one is the methodical gaps, methodical gap. Very rarely, there are very rare longitudinal panel studies to show the causality between graduate unemployment and macroeconomic outcomes. When it comes to geographic concentration, cross-country comparative analysis with similar developing economies remain underdeveloped, and macroeconomic quantification also very rare. No latest studies quantify the fiscal cost of graduate unemployment in Sri Lankan context, specifically to understand and quantify foregone tax revenue, welfare expenditure, loss of labor productivity. When it comes to digital and technological disruption, the relationship of automation, AI, and arts and humanities graduates displacement is underexplored. So, in overall, the evidence describes the problem well, but it needs a dedicated empirical investigation to examine the causal pathway, fiscal quantification, and digital disruption effects. So theoretical implications I have mentioned here. When it comes to human capital theory, the persistent graduate unemployment challenges the assumption that education automatically yield returns. Basically, the education doesn't automatically yield returns. There should be an alignment between the skills and the labor market requirement. The second one is mismatch as a macroeconomic variable. So skill job mismatch should be treated not merely as an individual or firm level issue, because it is a macroeconomic transmission channel that affects GDP, fiscal outcome and aggregated demand, elevating it from an HR concern to national policy issue. Finally, the disciplinary specificity matters. So graduate employability is not an uniform across disciplines. Arts and humanities graduates face distinct signaling problem, mismatch pattern, and macroeconomic effects. The practical and policy implications I have divided into two parts: supply side education and skill kind of implications, and also demand side labor market related implications. So supply side implications are curriculum reforms, work integrated learnings, financial and entrepreneurship education, university industry partnership. Demand side implications are private sector stimulation, active labor market programs, inclusive labor policies, strategic human capital planning. So this is the overview of the conclusion. So here I am emphasizing this is a kind of structural issue, not an individual issue. So graduate unemployment among arts and humanities graduates is a macroeconomic and structural issue. And also I'm again highlighting this is not individual skill or competency deficit. And the other conclusion is I have mentioned the 5 economic effects: basically GDP growth, government fiscal balances, labor market efficiency, and income distribution inequality, aggregate demand. So this is a kind of integrated, interrelated cycle. And integrated policy reforms are required, not only demand side, supply side as well. So as I mentioned earlier, the curriculum development, work integrated planning, entrepreneurship development should be encouraged in supply side. From demand side, private sector encouragement, inclusive labor policies to be encouraged from demand side. And these are the few references I have mentioned in my presentation. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation, and this is a very timely topic. So let me start the discussion with a question. So my question is, to what extent does the mismatch between university curricula and the labor market requirements contribute to graduate unemployment?
So to understand the question again, to what extent
does the mismatch between university curricula, especially in terms of arts and humanities, and the
yes,
labor market requirements contribute
yes,
to graduate unemployment? What
okay.
is your view on that?
Okay, so basically, I have highlighted here in my first slide, we are producing majority of arts graduates. So that is beyond the industry requirement. So again, I'm highlighting this is not kind of skill deficit, but we have a limited jobs because the private sector is weak to absorb all the employees. So the so curriculum wise, so we can integrate kind of STEM and technological subjects as well, but that would not be enough because I'm highlighting other kind of structural macroeconomic issues as well. So uh, the from the demand side, the uh, vacancies should be created.
Thank you. Thank you for the answer. I would like now I would like to invite our head of the department, Senior Professor K. Amrita Lincoln, to add few words to your presentation.
You have worked hard. A research question. Next slide. Research question.
Yes, sir.
research question. Uh, just here. What are the effects of that? The other way around also you can talk. Due to poor economic expansion, there are unemployment. In Sri Lanka also same. We could not expand our economy. Then there are unemployment. When we expand our economy properly, then we can reduce unemployment. How you are going to address that?
Yes. So compare with other developed countries, the Sri Lanka has a employment issue. But to highlight the issue more clearly and quantify the issue, so I selected arts and humanities graduates because it's very easy to highlight the issue in numbers. So that's why I just narrowed down the scopes.
Now, my question is different.
Okay.
My question is, here you want to say, due to unemployment, there are impacts on macroeconomic factors. But I'm asking, what about the other way around? Due to poor macroeconomic expansion, there are unemployment. That is my question. How you are going to address that? Here you want to say, no, due to unemployment among these graduates, there are impacts on macroeconomy.
Yeah.
I'm asking the other way around. Did you understand my question?
Yeah, I understood, sir. Sir,
In Sri Lanka, that is the reason, no, because we could not experience good growth rate. We could not expand our economy.
yeah.
That is why we have huge unemployment. When we increase our GDP, we can reduce unemployment.
Yeah. So I'm going, if it is, I'm going to start from more broader way, right?
Yes, true,
Because
true.
because if it comes to macroeconomic issues, there are like it's a kind of very, because it can lead to not only to unemployment, there are other uh, uh, effects as well. So I can't understand
I'm
how to
asking
narrow.
you now nearly 100,000 graduates are unemployed. According to my understanding, the 4 batches, nearly 100,000 graduates are unemployed. Why? In recent years, Sri Lankan economy could not perform. 3%, 4%, less than 5%. So when you have poor economic expansion, then you can't avoid unemployment. Okay, if we enjoy 8%, 9%, 10%, just definitely unemployment will come down. Anyway, I am inducing you to think more. I'm appreciating your work.
Thank you, sir.
I'm happy to
think
see the progress, and we need more, publication, and our PhD student particularly should focus more on publication. Just be on the right direction. I appreciate your work. Yes.
yes,
Maybe Sasi.
I think it was a very valid question by Professor Mithalinga, because now you can think more whether this unemployment among arts and humanities, whether it's a primarily a labor market mismatch or whether it's a very broad structural economic issue. Now, this is something that you have to think of. This is based on now. That is what he was asking, whether is it because of due to macroeconomic issues, there is high unemployment. So whether it is primarily a labor market mismatch or whether it's a structural economic issue that you can think of.
True.
And also,
True.
because of unemployment, what are the real losses? Like, what are the dominant losses? More significant? Like, is it income loss? It is unemployment? Is it brain drain? Social dependency? And also something very acute, that is productivity, reduced productivity. So what is more prominent because of unemployment of these graduates? And also maybe government is like spending a lot on free education, and what are the effects of Sri Lanka's return on public investment in higher education. That also you can think of. And also maybe what specific skill gaps between arts graduates and labor market expectations are there? What art graduates do not have, but what the labor market is expecting? And also, are they expecting what sort of soft skills, digital literacy, language competency? So what is really necessary for someone to be employable, right? You can think of in those lines. And also maybe now what will because of maybe AI, automation, and all this digital economy that we are just talking about, with all these things, what will be the future employment prospects for arts and humanities graduates? Will this aggravate, right? Or will it reduce? What will happen? So you maybe you can think of those things also. Or maybe now while you were doing the presentations, I was just thinking in so many lines that you can look into your research.
Okay.
And whether this now arts graduate are actually unemployed. Is it because they don't have skills, or is it a societal perception about the value of art graduates? Now, in our society also say, no, okay, I am science, you're arts. And, when you say arts, you are sort of low quality. That's the general perception. So is it because of that? There are things like that also. So these are some of the things that you have to look into. And all in all, I think you have done a very good job, and you have been, as I've been telling you, have been consistently progressing and comprehensive work. And it's a very contemporary and timely issue that we need to address. But you can think of those lines that I have, mentioned also.
Thank you, Melody. Thank you.
Madam Sir, thank you for your thoughts. Now I would like to invite the mastermind behind the working paper series, Senior Professor Premaratna, to add his thoughts on this discussion. Sir, I think we can't hear you, sir.
He's mute. No, he's not mute.
No, he's not mute.
Oh, we can hear?
Yes, sir. Now it's clear. Yes.
Oh, sorry. This study, I think the timely, very important, everybody right now talk about. Mr. Silva made the presentation based on his literature review. I think that based on this literature, and he identifies several gaps. Doing this study, he might have a very good policy level finding. This finding what you presented based on the literature review. At the same time, when the Professor Amirthalingam raised a very valid question, we have to look at the other way around also. Though we claim that the arts faculties and things and create the unemployment, rather we have to look at what the government has or the country has done, make the opportunities for them. And is this the opportunity gap or the unskilled, the labor gap? We have to think of that another area of the study. But he had done identify the gap based on the systematic literature review, the mismatch, what he had done, the vertical mismatch and the horizontal mismatch rightly, and also high unemployment that also identify very clearly. And the low wage rate also, we have to give some more attention why the human arts faculty graduates are low wage rate also. But still, I think that he had to look at with the same line, Professor Amirthalingam mentioned the other way around, informal sector contribution, those arts graduate, And also gender dimension, he did not mention. I don't know whether he had done the systematic literature review that area. And also look at some literature really quantitative impact on the economic growth and especially the productivity, because the low quality arts graduate may result low economic growth, especially right now you can see, I don't know that is the real reason, the public sector inefficiency and the low quality decision. I don't know with the rather depend on the low quality arts graduate, that one. That also you have to look at. I think at this stage, based on the literature review, is a very good study. So we will look at this analysis, and we will see some policy based on the analysis also. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir, for your insightful thoughts. And I would like to open the audience for questions. Do we have any questions from the audience? Do we have any questions from the audience regarding this presentation? And we have Dr. Vasana with us, one of the reviewers. Dr. Vasana, do you have any thoughts on this presentation?
Yes, thank you, Chatula. So as we know, this study offers a timely and systematic synthesis of economic implications of unemployment among arts and humanities graduates using PRISMA guidelines. Based on more than, he has gone through the more than 1,000 articles. So based on that, he has narrowed, selected 39 articles. Based on 39 articles, he has done he has analyzed all these 39 articles which was published between 2020 to 2025. So, and also this period also especially significant because it captured far-reaching disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic and their lasting effects of labor market and graduate employability. Beyond its empirical contributions, I think this paper underscored the importance of adopting integrated policy approaches that address both supply side and demand side constraint within the labor market. So one question from my side, Dilusha. So how does skill
I think we have lost the connection with Dr. Vasana. Do we have any other questions from the audience?
job
Dr.
misses?
Yes, okay. You are clear. Now,
Madam, can you repeat the question? I
Yes,
didn't hear.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So I have one question. How does this skill mismatch contribute to macroeconomic inefficiencies in both developed and developing countries? And because you have used the literature which is published in developed countries and based on developed and developing countries. So then I want to know whether there is what are the similarities and differences can be observed between these contexts.
Thank you, madam. Actually, the most studies tells the same pattern, but I couldn't find any difference based on developed or developing countries, and most of the article says the skill job mismatch and its implications in the same pattern. So I couldn't find any differences in those countries, but when it comes to developed countries, I found certain reports, articles says the recognition for arts graduates are much higher than in Asian and developing countries. Other than that, the income wise, like if we take teachers, so they get the higher income and more recognition in art disciplines when it comes to like comparative with Asian developing countries. So that is the main difference I found, sir, madam.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Vasana, for the questions. So do we have any other questions from the audience? It seems like we don't have any other questions. So as we conclude today's working paper presentation, I would like to sincerely thank the authors and the presenter of the working paper 18 for sharing their research with us. I also extend our sincere appreciation to Senior Professor Amirthalingam for his leadership within the department and his continued encouragement for the research activities. And our special thanks also should go to Senior Professor S.P. Premaratna for introducing the working paper series and for his continued intellectual guidance in strengthening the research within the department. I would also like to thank reviewers, Senior Professor S.P. Premaratna and Dr. Ratnayaka for their valuable time and the academic contribution to today's discussion. Finally, I would like to thank all the members of the academic staff, students, participants, and the colleagues for your presence today, and that was valuable engagement throughout today's session. Your presentation plays an important role in strengthening the academic dialogue and fostering a vibrant research culture within the department. Thank you so much